I'm Charles Esten. Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
All the other roles, if you look in the credits, it's Charles. This one was always Chip because you're not playing a character, you are who you are, so everybody knew me as Chip, so Chip it is. This is Chip Esten. Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
This is Sarah O'Connell. Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
Nailed it.
Yeah, because as you said, I was watching the early episodes, which are all available still, and you're listed as Chip in all of them.
Yeah, well, that's just, I guess, first of all, I was a young man, and I had barely done anything at the time. In fact, I don't know that I'd been on television yet before I did Whose Line. I was here playing Buddy Holly in the West End. And I got an audition for this show that certainly wasn't on yet in the States. It would be a few years before that. And I hadn't even been over here long enough to hear of it. So it sort of made it a lot easier auditioning for this thing that I didn't know what it was. It was no big deal. Just a long audition. And finally there I was on that stage with those incredible people. And Chip it was.
Yeah. And had you considered doing comedy or improv comedy before that?
Well, I went out to L.A. to be an actor. But you can't just hop into movies and TV shows. But there are other ways you can get up on stage. The first thing I tried was stand-up. Yeah. So I got right up on the stage, did some stand-up. But quickly I found improv, and I preferred it. I preferred writing sketches and being in the improv. Probably because they weren't as solitary. I didn't have much to bring to the stand-up world. I didn't have a particular vision or anything like that. But in improv, you don't need a particular singular vision. You can go all over the place with all different things. And also, it was a great way to meet more people. I didn't know anybody in LA, so suddenly you're in an improv troupe and you're doing sketch comedy. And so I was taking classes and hanging out at the Groundlings there, and ended up getting over here for Buddy. And so before I'd even done a paying gig back in the States, I was on TV doing it here.
It's amazing.
It felt amazing. It was one of those things where I would have had no way of knowing all that would come from this little thing called Whose Line.
I know, and it's still going strong 30 years later.
It's amazing. It's like a piñata where you shake it and the candy keeps coming out. It never stops coming out. Honestly, this has been amazing for my life for all these years. Mostly, I will say, for these friends of mine that I've gotten to know from the show, and also for the impact that it has on people. Every single day, anybody will come up to me and say, "Whose line is anyway?" As much as they might point to Nashville or The Office, there's a whole big contingent that say, "I know you as Chip from Nashville." Yeah.
That's amazing. So do you have any favourite games that you like taking part in, or any that you don't enjoy so much in the show?
I've always obviously been partial to the songs and the improvised songs, and we have an insanely stacked cast when it comes to musical improv for this weekend. Everybody up on that stage can sing, so I hope we get us all out there singing at some point. So it was always those. I always loved props, scenes from a hat. Were a couple favorites of mine, yeah.
You mentioned the improvised songs. They're all amazing. Do you ever sort of remember them afterwards, or once you've done them, they're gone? Would you ever consider sort of, I guess, archiving any in like an album or anything like that?
Were you talking about the scenes that?
Yeah.
Well, it's a funny thing about improv. You got to keep looking forward. You almost need to rip out the rear view mirror, because the second you start looking in your rear view mirror going, "Oh, that was a good game," you're going to smack into something, and you don't want to do that. So you do tend to let it go. But there are definitely some games where afterwards you're like, "Man, that one was pretty good." Now the difference is with Whose Line Is It Anyway? They're taping them, so they're there. There's nothing you have to remember. But when you're performing live, like tonight, or like when we're on the road, there's something cool about it being just gone right after that. That moment existed, and now it's gone. That's what's sort of something precious about that.
Do you ever find it intimidating to always have to come up with something like amazing instantaneously?
Well, you can't think, "I have to come up with something amazing." You just try to be in the moment and respond. Nerves can get you every time. Yeah. I was actually early on, I started off, did real well early on, and then I probably started overthinking it for a little bit, and I was thinking to myself, "Come on, be funny, be funny, be funny." But there's no way to think yourself into funniness. You can't like flex a muscle to be funnier. So over the years, I realized it was more about just relaxing, and a better thought is have fun. Just have fun. And if I can't have fun with these folks on stage, then then I can't have fun, because these are the funniest. I guarantee I will leave each of these shows with my face hurting from smiling and laughing. And by the way, I'm not supposed to be smiling and laughing up there, but I will be. I have no doubt. It's amazing. Yeah. Well, I can't wait.
What would be your dream Whose Line lineup of people?
I mean, look, we are very near it with this show. We're missing a couple. We're missing my buddy Ryan, of course, and Greg had to step out for a little bit. So those are two great ones, and Wayne. But outside of that, this is an incredible contingent. And there's so many of the original Brits that I'm a big fans of too, that I remember just dying laughing at and with. There's. It's hard to say, because everybody brings their own thing, and it's more about who's on that stage right in that moment, right across from you, and just being there, responding to them in the moment.
Absolutely. Now, you also very famously played Deacon Claiborne in Nashville and contributed to the soundtracks too. What were your highlights of working on that show for 6 years, I think it was?
That is a tough question. That show was all highlights for me. Every bit of that show. The fact that I got to be on this wonderful drama and act with people like Connie Britton and Sam Palladio, of course, from here, and Claire Bone and Jonathan Jackson, Chris Carmack, Lennon and Maisie Stella. That's the first thing. It always comes down to me as people, the relationships I had with all of them. And then on top of that, the fact that I get to play not only their music, but my own music because of all this. I'm coming back here in January for 6 dates that are already sold out. I couldn't believe it. They went like that, and the Adelaides are going to be here in support of me during those 6 dates here. Then we're going over to Germany for more dates. None of that would have happened without Whose Line Whose Line was before Nashville, but without Nashville. It's Nashville that opened up that whole world to me. So those are just two things, and I could go and go and go. It's been the role of a lifetime. Whose Line is what got me started and carried me for so long. And Nashville is the one that sort of opened all these doors now.
It's fantastic, and I'm very excited to hear you're coming back in January as well. I have to try and see you then and every other time you come to the UK.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Now, you appeared in 3 Kevin Costner films, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. I'll give you a secret. Yeah. My wife, Patty, was his assistant for nearly 5 years, and just a fantastic guy. I was always a fan, but when I met him and got to find out the kind of guy he is, just wonderful to her, wonderful to us as a family, and kind enough to put me in 3 of his films. In The Postman, I was in that one, and I got killed in that one. And I know
13 Days in Swing.
13 Days. I was talking about Swing Boat. 13 Days was the second one. I also was in that one, and then Swing Vote as well. So I had a ball just being on the set with him and watching one of the very best do it at the very best level. So it was great for me as a younger actor to be there for that.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I must congratulate you on, you won $500,000 for charity in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, I've been the national honorary spokesman for Light the Night campaign, which is the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's campaign to obviously raise funds to fight blood cancer. Real early on in that, they invited me online on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire back in the States, and I didn't really want to do it in case I'd end up looking stupid, but they promised $10,000 to the campaign no matter what, so I literally couldn't say no. So I went on there, and they just kept asking me questions that I happened to know. And the last one was actually a very British question. It was, there's a car on the album cover of Abbey Road. What is the license plate of that car? And somehow, in all the useless knowledge that actually helps very much with improv, I was able to guess, or I knew that license plate, and that's what got me to $500,000, and all of it went to that charity. So that was kind of an exciting day for sure.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it really was, considering how poorly I did in school, and I mean, I made my way through and I graduated college on time, but that it would be little knowledge like that sort of trivia that helped me in the long run and went towards such a good cause.
It's funny, you never know what will be useful, right, when you're doing stuff like that.
You know, I used to watch television, and my mom would say, "What is that ever going to do for you?" And she had no idea that it would do everything for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now you were recently cast in TNT's Tell Me Your Secrets. What can you tell us about that show?
TNT it's a fantastic show. Amy Brenneman stars in that, and Hamish Linklater and Lily Rabe, and I played Amy's husband. It's not like as bang on a lead as it was in Nashville. It's not Deacon, but it's a very different character, much softer side, and I play her husband. And I should say that it's more heart-stopping than Nashville was more heartwarming and heartbreaking. So I just read the script and I thought that it was fantastic, and I really wanted to be a part of it. And we shot it down in New Orleans, and we're all done with that first season, but it doesn't come out till spring, I guess, late spring back in the States. I'm not sure about here.
Hopefully it'll be here soon too, right?
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
Of course, you're over here apart from my show. You're also here for the 30th anniversary of Whose Line Is It Anyway? What can we expect from that show, and what do you attribute to its lasting success?
Well, first of all, it's improv, so there's no expectations. There's no way to know what to expect, especially with these characters on stage. Anything can happen, literally. That's what I love about it so much. There's something rather insane about being backstage right before a show at Royal Albert Hall. Anybody else has a set list or has a script, like if you're in, or if you have, even if a stand-up has their jokes, we're just backstage going, I don't know what's going to happen. You say something and I'll respond. What do I attribute it to? Well, first of all, I got to really doff my hat to Dan Patterson, the creator, and everybody at Hat Trick. Nobody else has really quite found a way to put improv on television in the way they did. Mark Levinson, what they've done, the format of the show, those three guys, the host. There's something about it that brings improv in a way that's immediate right to television. And from the very beginning, it was something where it's almost like a magic trick when you do it right. When I would watch people, it's like people go, how did they do that? They're in like a straitjacket of what's he going to say? And he says something and gets out of it. I think it was the format that really worked, and then of course their casting. Over the years they've cast just the very, very best. Not referring to myself, but to these people that I'm surrounded by. So those two things, for some reason, just that freedom. I think people like to think of themselves in a moment having an opportunity to say something funny. Would you do it? Are you there? And to watch people on the edge come through in the moment is what it is. It's that camaraderie you also see, that giving each other trouble. Like, if anybody says something that's not funny, that ends up being even funnier because the rest of the cast is going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. There they are now. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what are you working on next? Will there be more music?
Well, absolutely working on more music. Always writing back in Nashville, getting ready to go on this tour and hoping to tour more in the States and perhaps Canada as well. That's the great thing is, as an actor, you're always waiting for the next job. But as a musician, you can be creating while you're doing that. So I'm very grateful to get to do both.
It's very true. And do you think you'll keep wanting to do Whose Line and improv as well?
I have no reason why not to. It's not like you have to prepare much for it or do anything like that. You just sort of, they ask me to show up, I'll show up. It's a blast to see these guys again.
It's fantastic. So you're multi-talented and you've got all these different avenues that you can pursue as much as you want to, and it's very exciting to watch and enjoy all of this stuff.
Well, I appreciate that.
Finally, have you got any messages for people watching the Sarah O'Connell Show and your fans around the world?
Well, keep watching because she talks to some fine and funny people, and you got to come to Nashville and interview some people there as well, all right?
Love to.
All right, sounds good. It's a deal.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure.
And thank you everyone watching at home. Be sure to share, subscribe, give the video a big thumbs up, and I'll see you all again soon for another episode of the Sarah O'Connell Show. Bye.
Big thumbs up.